Meeting to order. Mr. Jackson was unable to attend tonight, so you have to put up with it. I'd like to ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Jackson is absent. Mr. Lucero absent. Mr. Parker is absent. Mr. Robinson.
Here.
Ms. Cordova.
Here.
Mr. Bowen.
Here.
Mr. Lopez.
Here.
Mr. Heffler.
Here.
And Mr. Miller.
Here. We have a quorum. I'll ask you to please stand, and I'll ask you to put over to lead us in meditation. Mr. Heffler, for lead us in prayer.
Bow your heads with me. Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight for this meeting. Give us patience and humble our hearts to listen to our community and our constituents. Guide us to make decisions that are going to bring our community forward and not hold us back. Protect our community, our staff, our residents. Place your hands over all of it so that we may be blessed. In your holy name we pray.
Amen.
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 Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The example of perfect friendships among united cultures.
Our first action item is the minutes of the previous meeting held July 11th, 2023. Received a minute, a copy of those minutes or your packet.
I move we approve. Second.
A motion by Mr. Lopez, a second by Mr. Robinson to approve. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carries. Item 6 is presentations. Our first presentation is BDO zone presentation, Brian Magwood of EcoStrat, and I believe you are on to it. The floor is yours.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. I'm actually going to be the one running the presentation. My name is Erin Garswood. I am the head of special projects with EcoStrat and also the head of the BDO Zone Initiative. Joining me here today is my colleague, Alan Parenson, who is the director of business development, as well as Brian Magwood, who is a project coordinator with the initiative as well. I believe we have about 5 minutes, so I'm just going to pull up my screen here and quickly run through the presentation. If it will let me. This works. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. So as I mentioned, I will go through this as quickly as I can. So if there are any questions, please feel free to stop me. But again, my name is Erin Garswood. I'm the head of the BDO Zone Initiative. And today I'm here to talk to you about BDO Zone ratings as an economic development tool to help attract new bio-based project development to your region and as well as investment to your region as well. So in a nutshell, a BDO zone rating or a bioeconomy development opportunity zone rating is a standards-based assessment of biomass feedstock and infrastructure attributes of a region with respect to development potential of new bio-based manufacturing plants. So plants that produce anything from biofuels to renewable chemicals, biogas, or bioproducts. The purpose of BDO zone ratings is, again, to help communities stand out and attract new bio-based investment opportunities and project development to their region by signaling that they are well-equipped areas for new bio-based project development. So in order to help these projects stand out, there is quite a bit of due diligence that goes behind these BDO zone ratings. Specifically, BDO zones are evaluated on for a couple of things. So number one, is there a feedstock surplus available within the region? Anything from woody biomass to agricultural residuals, farm waste, food waste, etc. Is anything that we consider biomass feedstock. It, of course, just depends on the region and what's available. Second to the feedstock would be, are there committed suppliers in the region that can also haul and transport this feedstock? But is there a supportive community as well that's looking to actually attract these types of projects to their region? And finally, does the community have a sound infrastructure that can support an incoming project? So an industrial park, for example, or a brownfield site that can facilitate a new project. So based off these three pillars or these qualifications, if you will, a community will then receive a rating. So a AAA, a AA, or an A rating, which again is meant to identify the optimal areas across the country for new bio-based development. We often compare these zones as similar to being like a credit rating or a bullseye on a map that helps developers understand where the best locations are to site their next projects. I'll touch quickly on this slide, but as I mentioned, there's quite a bit of due diligence that goes into these BDO zone ratings, and specifically they're based upon a standardized framework, which is the US standards for biomass supply chain risk. These were standards that were developed over a period of 6 years, and this was actually a project led by our company EcoStrat, in addition to Idaho National Labs, which was all funded by the US Department of Energy's BDO office. But all is to say is that these are the standards in which BDO zones are based upon. So these are the recognized, credible, standardized framework that is recognized within this industry and was supported by governments and industry. So what I'm sharing on my screen now is an example of what a BDO zone rating actually looks like. This was a rating that was issued back in October of 2022, so fairly recently. And this is actually the very first AA rated BDO zone that was issued in North America. So this was a rating done in Bon Weir, Texas, which is a fairly small community of about 1,000 people. And they received their AA rating for about 2 million green tons per year of woody biomass within a 75-mile radius. So all is to say about this project and why it's significant is that this AA rating actually supported the siting decision for a fairly large sustainable aviation fuel project, which is called USA Bioenergy. So this rating helped support the siting decision for that project. And the rating itself was also endorsed and backed up by Citibank to help support the $1 billion capital raise to help fund this project. So this is just an example of a type of bio-based project that these ratings are meant to attract. Again, they're meant to cast a wide net in order to attract numerous types of potential projects to your region. And you can see to the right of my screen are a couple of screenshots of the rating itself. They're about 50 to 60 pages in length, give or take, and are all available to view and download at bdozone.org. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about these ratings in the sense of being an economic development tool, because ultimately that's what they are designed to do. Again, help communities attract new bio-based projects to their region. So we help drive economic development to these communities in a couple of different ways. As I mentioned, all ratings are available to view and download at bdozone.org. But we also issue a press release, which goes out to the major bio-based sector publications, our strategic partners and investment coalition. But we've also paired up with a fairly large online bioeconomy daily, which is this new platform that enables BDO zones to connect with hundreds of project developers and investors around the world. This platform is called BDO Zone Connect. It's essentially a webinar series, and it allows you to connect and to network with hundreds of developers and investors around the world that are specifically interested in that specific region and the feedstock and infrastructure assets that they present. So it's really meant to be a market-making platform to help drive economic development to your region and raise the flag on that recently designated BDO zone designation. Also supporting this initiative is the BDO Zone Investment Coalition. That is a group of about 20 members that have committed to support this initiative and also help finance new projects that would be located in BDO zone designations. Back in April of 2021, this investment coalition actually announced $1 billion for deployment into projects, that would be located in BDO zone designations. You can see some of the names at the bottom of my screen, but again, these are really the big players in the industry that are looking to finance these new projects. So before I wrap up the presentation, I just want to pause and share this screen with you to give you a sense of the progress that we have made in the last couple of years. EcoStrat, or the BDO Zone Initiative, I should say, is a fairly young program. We have been around since mid 2020, early 2021. And at that time, there was one BDO zone designation that was issued in North America. The following year, there were 4 BDO zones, and in this past March, there were 22 BDO zone designations either issued or in process. You can see some of the names of those communities and regions at the bottom of my screen. We do expect this number to be well over 50 by the end of this year. Some of the communities you'll see are bolded at the bottom of my screen, and all of those communities actually have one thing in common, which is they all received funding to pursue this rating through the Rural Business Development Grant, or the RBDG, which has presented itself as a great opportunity for communities to apply and receive full funding in order for this to essentially be a free economic development tool for their region. Something you might also notice is there isn't a BDO zone designation down there in New Mexico, which is, really why we're having this discussion with you all today, to really socialize this program and see if it could be something that could benefit the city. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up there. Again, I know I was flying through this quickly, so I hope I'm not throwing too much at you. But in a nutshell, BDO zone ratings, again, are designed to pre-vet and quantify key regional biomass feedstock and infrastructure success characteristics. As mentioned, the BDO Zone Connect platform is really a way for you to network and connect with hundreds of project developers and investors around the world who are interested in siting their next projects in BDO zone designations. As mentioned, there's $1 billion of private capital supporting this initiative and waiting to be deployed into these projects. And finally, if there's anything to take away from this presentation, this is meant to be an economic development tool to help support communities, attract new projects to their region, and of course, create jobs for their economies. So I will wrap things up there. All of my information is available on the screen, but I believe we sent this presentation to Sarah, but I'm happy to share it again afterwards. So thank you all very much for your attention. I'm not sure if we have a couple of minutes for questions, but maybe I'll just pause there if there are any questions.
Well, thank you, ma'am, and I appreciate your brevity. Does anyone have any questions at this point?
The only thing I would say is maybe they should get with RCCDC. That'd be a good place to start for this community.
Could you hear Mr. Heflin okay?
I didn't catch sorry, could you repeat the question?
Well, I think that maybe this would be a great opportunity for RCCDC to get involved.
They don't know.
They don't know what
They don't know what RCCDC is.
Economic development.
Yeah, I can only go. I'll give you your email from Sarah and I'll email you all the information.
That would be excellent. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Well, I think maybe our county and our region might be a good opportunity. And I think Mr. Heflin's suggestion of getting with our economic development group is a good idea, and we'll get you that information.
That would be great. Thank you so much. And we can send over this information afterwards for you to circulate if that would be helpful. Thank you all so much for your time and really appreciate the opportunity to present this to you all today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, it is with somewhat regrets that we go to this next item of we'll have your public comment later. There's no debate during our regular meeting for public comment. Thank you. We'll get, you can ask that question during public comment. Okay. Again, like I said, it's with a little regret that we're going to do this next item, but Marilyn, if you'll come forward, please. After 21 years of service, Marilyn Rath is our finance director, and decided to check it in.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure that we have a competent replacement, but it's going to be very tough. So if you'll bear with me. We'd like to recognize your 21 years or 6 days of service, Marilyn. You've come here and done a very, very good job for us. So The certificate of appreciation says an acknowledgement and appreciation of 21 years and 6 days of outstanding service in the city of Portales and the citizens of this community. The certificate is awarded to Marilyn S. Rapp, Finance Director Treasurer, upon PERA retirement. On behalf of the City Council and the City Administration, congratulations and a most sincere thank you for your service. We present you with a token of our appreciation in recognition of services rendered, and as mayor of the city of Portales, I do hereby set my hand and cause the corporate seal of the city of Portales be affixed to this certificate, this 25th day of July 2023. Marilyn, we're going to. Anyone else go? I hope you have a place to hang things now, and you're not gonna be in. So, and we have this plaque of appreciation, again, Marilyn S. Rapp, City of Portales Treasurer, for your 21 years of service in the City of Portales upon your retirement, presented by the Portales Mayor, Council, and Administration of the City of Portales. So.
Now I didn't think I'd get emotional, but unfortunately I am.
You always have comments.
I've always said comments, yes. It's been a pleasure. It's been a long time. The city from quite a bit. I've grown quite a bit in the service of the city, and I appreciate the chance to serve.
Well, we appreciate you very much. One more presentation now, and that's for the employee of the month, and Ms. Austin.
Yes, sir. I got an email that says, I nominate Catherine in water billing. She has adapted, overcome self-doubts and challenges, arranged schedules, handled customers, made decisions, found confidence she knew she had, and is growing in her role while seeming to build morale in her crew. She seems to care about what she does at the city. She does an outstanding job, and that was nominated by Joe McBabe. So Miss Catherine, please. Yes, in the front.
Catherine, we'd like to present you with this little framed token of our appreciation for your work and dedication to the city of Portales. And it just says employee of the month, Catherine Johnson is the July 2023 employee of the month. Thank you for all your hard work and dedication to the city of Portales and its citizens. Thank you very much. Imagine that's a difficult task because we have a lot of very good employees.
Yes.
Again, thank you, Catherine. Our next item is the consent agenda. These, the items listed below are recommended by the city manager for placement on the consent agenda. These items are placed on the agenda so the council by unanimous consent can designate those routine items that they wish to be approved or acknowledged by one motion. If any proposal does not need the approval of all city council members, that item will be heard when it's reached under the regular agenda. So the first thing we need is a motion to place the indicated items on the consent agenda by roll call vote, and I will read those items. There are 4 of those. Number 1, planning and zoning recommendation for approval for an easement over 5 foot at 1001 South Boulder. The current owner is selling the property to the applicant and an easement approval is needed. Second item is finance ratification of the bills for the month of June 23. The third item is approval to accept a junior bill appropriation for $160,000 to purchase new police vehicles from Senator Stuart Engel. And fourth is water approval of authorized official signature on contract extension time documents with Daniel Lee Stevens and Associates and KB Ventures for Blackwater Wellfield project completion, Water Trust Board, WPF 5104. And will include a NMFA grant agreement time extension letter. Can I have a motion to place those on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Robinson, a second by Mr. Bowen. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Ms. Cordova,
Yes.
Mr. Bowen,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Huffman,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes. Now then, that we have placed those on the agenda, do I need to read them again, Stuart?
No.
So can I have a motion to approve those 4 items that we called out? On the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question on one of them.
Um,
Mr. Lopez, we can't have a discussion on them. If you'd like to have a discussion, we'll have to move it out.
We'll have to move it off.
We have to take it off the agenda and put it on the consent agenda and add it to the regular agenda.
I'll make a motion to do that, or
Yes,
I don't believe there's no-
You can.
you don't have to. You just ask that that one be removed and it'll be removed automatically.
well, I'll make a motion to go ahead and remove number 1, planning zoning recommendation for approval for that 5 foot of 1001 South Boulder.
Okay, we don't need a motion. We'll just move that to the regular agenda and it'll be our next item on the agenda. So that leaves items 2, 3, and 4. So can I have a motion to approve on the consent agenda, the finance ratification bills, the police department approval of the junior bill of appropriations, and the approval for signature on the contract time extension on the Blackwell Waterfield project completion.
And so moved. Second.
A motion by Mr. Robinson, a second by Mr. Heflin to approve items 2, 3, and 4 on the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Ms. Cordova,
Yes.
Mr. Bowen,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes,
Mr. Huffman.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes. Thank you. So our next item of business will be action on planning and zoning recommendation for approval of easement over 5 foot at 1001 South Boulder. Mr. Lopez.
the question I have is 5 foot, 5 foot or 5 inches is too much to give an easement when you get to buying that property afterwards, if they're gonna buy it. Maybe a lawyer can tell us.
Kelly, can you address this?
Yes, can you repeat the question?
The question is that whenever if anytime they want to buy that or sell that property, that's going to come up.
Yes, sir. Since it's an easement, it's built up onto the right of way. When they do the survey to sell and a bank goes to finance it, they'll do the survey, see that it encroaches, and they will have to get an easement application. The only way to get around that would be to take what would be the easement down. So to move the fence or take the fence down, and they wouldn't need to come every time they sell the home.
I know because I was involved with the Ben Franklin Addition subdivision. And we had all kinds of problems trying to redo all that. Some of the property rights in the middle of the road.
And this one, it doesn't, the utilities were fine with it. And luckily, if we do ever need to build there or we need to extend anything, they are required to take their fence down. So that's part of the agreement that they signed with us.
And Mr. Lopez, you're exactly right. When we were both at the county, we had to do this every time a piece of property was sold in that Franklin edition. And eventually what we had to do is go to the court and have that replatted, so we didn't have to do that every time that there was a transaction of sale.
So you tell me they're gonna have to move the fence if they fenced it before already?
The fence is already there. So their easement the city would be allowing them to leave their fence there unless we need that property. So they could do the sale. But it doesn't allow them to build anything else. And then if they go to sell the property again, then the new landowner would also need permission to keep that fence there.
And then they get that permission for the bank.
Yes, and then the bank will finance them because
So
that
they could
easement is
potentially
clear.
Not get financed because of the letter.
Yes.
Any additional questions? Thank you, Kelly. What's the pleasure of the council?
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Heflin, Ms. Gordon. Okay, we have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Sign. Okay, we have one. No. The motion carries. Our action items are, our first action item is street department discussion and action item, Roosevelt County Road Department agreement for South Roosevelt Road 6 and a partnership with Mymar Terminals. I have Mr. Chavez and Mr. Lovato from the county. Mr. Lovato.
Good evening, Councilman. Appreciate y'all letting me do this. I'm here to ask the council's approval for the agreement between Mymar, Roosevelt County, and the city of Portales. In this agreement, Mymar, the owners, Mark and Lisa Myers, will be paying for the materials to rehabilitate and repair the industrial road. The money put forward by Mymar will pay for the reconstruction of the south side of industrial. This would be a 3-inch base course that would be hauled by Roosevelt County, followed by a double pin chip seal. The bottom pin will be a 3/4 inch aggregate. And then the second pin would be the 1/2 inch aggregate. Once the south side is done, when I'm saying the south side of the intersection of Road 6 and Industrial, we would do the north side. The north side would just be a patch and fill, and then a chip seal overlay with a 1/2 inch aggregate. Once that is done, they will pay for a micro seal on top of that. So we would go in there and rip up the south side up to the concrete which y'all have poured, which is the second gate to the south. Stop there and then replace everything underneath and then up to the intersection. The north side would just be a overlay.
Mr. Chavez, you had to do that. Yeah. Questions for Mr. Lovato?
I'd like to ask a question. How about is that going to be enough for all those big trucks that run through there to where you won't tear it up?
Mr. Lopez, I'm glad you asked that question. The big trucks. So Mymar is really looking for time. He's hoping that the city can come up with some money through some grant money or something to put concrete down. This would give us 5 to 7 years where his equipment, he just invested $5 million in new equipment out there. And this will help him to get by for that amount of time. So he's hoping within 5 and 7 years, y'all can find some grant money to start the concrete work on industrial.
Any further questions?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. This will go with Roosevelt Road 6 that they're fixing to start. And so Ricky's crew would not have to lift all of their equipment, move it, and then have to bring it back and set right back up when they're already wanting to pay for it. So it just kind of just flows instead of stopping and starting.
There's another reason for it too. I mean, thank you, Ms. Cordova. That's a great comment. Also is once we get this chip seal, we also got 2 other projects that we're wanting to do. We got State Line that we're gonna chip seal, and we're gonna do Highlands. In September, we're having our contractor coming in from Roswell, and he is the one that's going to be doing the micro seal. If we miss that window, we won't get them this year. And Road 6 will be open just with a chip seal with all the heavy equipment. And so if y'all approve this, so would be industrial. So we really need to look at this and hopefully move forward on this.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Ricky, I'd just like to ask, sorry, Mr.
Go ahead.
Mayor Pro Tem. How is the project coming along on 6? Do y'all start this week?
We did start this week. Thank you for the question, Ms. Cordova. We did start this week. We was hoping to start the dirt work on Monday. We did not get to start the dirt work on Monday. We got out there and there was a bunch of trees left and that needed to be pulled and cut down. Stumps left up to about 3 to 5 foot. That would be a safety hazard when it rains or snows and somebody hits the bar ditch, would probably kill somebody out there. So we spent 2 days out there. cleaning and prepping the road to get to where we can get to where we are today. That was 8 men out there, 9-hour shifts, and 3 pieces of heavy equipment and 5 pickups. A lot of hard work. I mean, I give the city what they've already done. We had to do this when we met with Miss Austin and Mr. Chavez, and it was Amber and I. Back in April, we was hoping in them 3 months they would have this done. Hopefully in May when it's cooler. Well, we got there this week and it's 106 degrees and, you know, it's pretty tough out there running a chainsaw, moving logs, and just a lot of hard work. So in saying that, I invite y'all to go out there and look at that. Look at the pile that we put out there on the city land, the pile of trees that we put there. There was a lot of trees.
You put that on the old airport property there, is that what I understand?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So today we did start ripping the road. The road is ripped. It's we started crushing it. We'll integrate it. It won't be done. Well, tomorrow will be passable. We'll open it up for the traffic for the weekend. We'll put signs out and make sure that everybody's cautious across there. But next week we'll continue and then we'll start hauling. I'm hoping caliche on it by Wednesday of next week. So the progress will continue.
So I did drive that road and I did see the stumps. That's why I asked the question of when the trees were supposed to. I think I was under the understanding that it was supposed to come off after the road, which doesn't make sense. So I appreciate your team's hard work in the sun, pulling those stumps when we were supposed to do that. So thank you to you and your team. I drove it last week and it was 5 foot high, you know, the trees, the stumps. And then I drove it yesterday and everything's just really level. So they did a great job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Cordova, anything else?
Nope, I'd like to make a motion to approve for Roosevelt Road 6 partnership with Mymar City and Roosevelt County to move forward with the project.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Before I take a vote on that, I would just like to say, Ricky, I really do appreciate you and the county for cooperating with us and getting this done. It's something that's needed to be done for some time, and I really do thank you.
And thank you to Mr. Myers and his wife for footing the bill too.
I'll let them know and thank y'all for letting us do this with y'all.
Thank you.
Have a motion and a second. I believe it was Ms. Cordova and Mr. Lopez. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Bye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Item 2, under action items, finance department. The first item is action item fourth quarter budget adjustment resolution. It's number 2324-02. Marilyn, are you requiring to do this or?
I think it would be fun to let Twyla do it. I'm not qualified. You go ahead. The final budget adjustments, you should have gotten a copy of those. Hopefully those are emailed out to you. And I don't have a copy of those in front of me. Do you?
Well, you are a finance chairman. It's Cordova.
I don't have mine in front of me either. Let me see. So we did discuss this morning. We did have great discussion, actually. We have a new finance committee member, Megan Hamilton, and she has done a ton of research and calling and going out looking for spaces where we can improve as well. So I just want to commend her, first of all, while they get it pulled up. But when you're ready, you can present.
Okay, the, you know, you're used to my putting in a whole bunch at the end of the year, but well, now it's not quite so many. In the general fund, we just had an increase, a budget adjustment to increase our franchise tax collections by 120,000. And increase our transfer out of the general fund to Fund 709. And that is for that is based on GRT collections. The state made a change a year or two ago about how they required us to book the gross receipt taxes. And so that's the economic development tax. That's being.
Let me interrupt you for a second. Chris or somebody, do we have this? 'Cause we don't have it in our packet.
No, we don't have this.
I mean, some of us saw it this morning in finance committee, but we had 3 counselors that didn't see it.
Yes. No, that's the interim budget one. Let me see if I have it.
That's the resolution. You don't see the actual spreadsheet. All right.
I can email it to you real quick.
It's Veronica, you're gonna email?
Yeah, I just sent it.
I'd have to log out. I don't know what.
Should have it, the whole thing should have it. It's a long vote.
In the meantime, I think while they're looking for that, so maybe you could, those of you that want to finance this morning can see it and the members here. Basically, we had revenues that we didn't expect. So we had to plug those in and add to the expenditures. Everything's zeroed out for the most part, Madam Chair, is that correct?
That is correct.
But hopefully you can see it, because it might be better.
Long hand, so I can do it one moment, please. My apologies, we did, Miss Marilyn and then we're working pretty late last night and we didn't have time to add it to everything.
Well, we had them this morning.
Yes, we made sure that you had them this morning.
While they're working on that, can we skip on the agenda down to item 5, the appointment of the 2023 annual New Mexico Municipal League Conference voting delegates? We need a voting delegate and an alternate for the New Mexico Municipal League Annual Conference. The voting delegates will vote on the board members in at large, the treasurer, the vice president, and the president-elect for the upcoming year. First of all, who's attending?
I'm attending.
Okay. We got 4 of you, and I will be there. Have to be there. So, I'm sorry,
I'm attending. I'll be an alternate.
okay, who do you want to be the voting delegate?
I don't know if I was doing this.
Yeah, stay.
Well, that's fine, no, I knew it was Diane.
I'll be the voting delegate.
Okay.
So, there would be a motion then to have Jake Lopez the delegate and Veronica the alternate.
So moved. Second.
A motion by Mr. Heflin, a second by Mr. Robinson to appoint those two to be our voting delegates. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. I don't suppose we can get down to the budget report resolution. Let's do the action item on the signature authorizations for banking services, resolution 23-2405. I do believe that is in your packet. And it is on resolution 23-2405. It says the governing body of the municipality of Taos, state of Mexico, the following are designated signatures for city accounts at the U.S. Bank. The mayor pro tem, Slyla Flynn, and Joanne Martinez Carriel. So I suppose what we're doing here is we're moving Maryland off and putting Twyla in. That's essentially the only change we're making. Is that correct?
yes.
If I may make a suggestion, since Joanne's been out for a while, it has been suggested that we put Carla on just so there would be two people in City Hall for signatures. So if one is out, the other one could sign check.
Okay, so we can amend that resolution and add Carla.
Can we, Mr. Pro Tem, can we just leave Joanne and add a fifth signer or?
Yes, I would leave
Okay.
Joanne on.
think that
just
was-
add-
Okay.
Add Carla.
Okay, so not making the switch, just adding Carla.
Yes.
So we'll add number 5 is Carla Lee, right?
Yes, so I make a motion for resolution 23-2405 for the changes with the amendment of adding a fifth signature of Carla Weems.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Cordova, a second by Mr. Lopez on resolution 23-2405. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Yes. Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Ms. Cordova,
Yes,
Mr. Bowen,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Heflin,
Yes.
and Mr. Moore.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to, well, we need to amend this resolution, so we'll have to sign it again. Okay. We'll have to sign that. Anywhere else we can go at this point in time that we're not gonna have it.
can we do the comprehensive plan?
Do we need the for the comprehensive plan?
Yes. And geez, I think we have. We do have it now.
Okay. Kind of hard to see.
Chris,
but-
do you mind making it to 75%? Please,
Let's go a little more.
a little more.
Yeah.
That's perfect,
There you go.
thank you.
Okay, now then, if we can proceed with the presentation, please. Marilyn, would you please take this?
Okay, I apologize for that, council, and so as I was saying, the general fund for revenues, there was a net increase to revenues of a little bit over 103,000, and that was from the increase in franchise tax, and there was a decrease or an increase in transfers out, which decreased the net revenues for the general fund. For the expenditures, we had a $46,000 increase in termination pay, and that was in the police department. and a little bit over 14,461 increase in library full-time positions. And so that was an increase of 60,461 for a net increase of fund balance of 42,626. The next fund that we had budget adjustments in was the E911 fund, that is Fund 207, and that pays the communication center. And those expenses, this is all grant funded. And so we got in more money from the grant that there was an amendment during the year, and we kind of picked that up. And so we're increasing the revenues by 50,403 and the expenditures by 50,403. For the law enforcement protection fund, that is the LERF. So it's the law enforcement recruitment fund, and that is a new fund. It's there is a House bill that gave the city money for police recruitment and retention, and we had a $3,000 grant for that. And the state does require that to account for that separately in a new fund. And so we're looking at revenue and expense revenue of 300,000, and that was paid out $3,000 for stipends. In the next two funds, the 214 lodgers tax non-promotional and lodgers tax promotional funds, they are tied. The city collects 5% lodgers tax on hotel stays within the city, and half of that can be used for promotional purposes. The other half can be used for non-promotional. And so the revenue is collected in the promotional fund, and we do a transfer into the non-promotional fund. And our collections were a little bit higher this year, $7,100 more than we expected. And so we needed to increase that transfer into the non-promotional fund, and that's what those two funds are for. In the recreation fund, we had to increase expenditures for pool supplies. And that was a little bit over $10,000. And so that was increase in expenditures, and this we were going to use a little bit of our fund balance, our reserves on that, but we still have about $176,000 left in the recreation fund. In the Portales area transit, we're just moving expenditures around for the rider software and some savings from fuel. In the 301, the capital repair and replacement, there was we had to book the donation for the F-111 renovation. And also the initial portion of the skate park grant, I initially had that all in the new budget, the fiscal year 24 budget, but we had some expenditures, and so we earned that grant revenue in this year. So I need to book that $172,097. And so then we had corresponding expenditures for the water wastewater. We had an increase in penalty revenue, and we also had an increased transfer to the water improvement reserve, and that transfer is based upon 5% of revenues. And so that is a way that we're setting aside some money for future improvements. And so on the 551, we have that additional coming in. And then in economic development, once again, the Fund 709, if you remember my talking about at the beginning, that is based upon GRT revenues, and so that transfer in was a little bit more, and so we had to do budget adjustments to increase that transfer in. I went over it very quickly, and I do apologize for the confusion. Are there any questions?
Anyone have any questions? I think some of us saw this morning in finance committee, but pretty standard year in.
I just have one question. On the law enforcement deal, is that the one where the chief for retention, used for retention as well? That's the same thing that we talked about.
Yes, sir. Yes.
That is that fund.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any further questions?
I just
Yeah.
have one comment, sorry,
Okay.
on that. So it was all used for retention, and then next year's will be used for recruitment, correct?
Yes.
and retention. Okay,
And then this year was also recruitment and retention, but the caveat was we had to have a certified officer by the deadline of the grant and
which we didn't because it was 2 weeks out is what you explained. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? What's the pleasure in approving the fourth quarter budget adjustment resolution 23-2402?
I make the motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Heflin, second by Mr. Bowen. Carl, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Ms. Cordova,
Yes.
Mr. Bowen,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Heflin,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes. We have the fourth quarter. Our next item is an action item where we will approve the fourth quarter budget report resolution 23-2403. I don't believe it's in our packet.
No, it's not inside the-
Kind of important because it rolls into the budget presentation.
We have enough now.
Okay, Marilyn?
Thank you. The fourth quarter report is a requirement by the state that the council review and approve this. And just for, won't go over everything. This is a recap. So it doesn't have the detail. The revenues for the general fund were a little bit over $11 million. Net transfers or net transfer out of 2,225.19. Expenditures were 10,061,587. And so as you can see, the general fund did have more revenues than expenditures, which is a good thing. The other funds, most of these are grant related. If we go down to the second page of this, the state kind of groups the funds a little bit differently. We have them separated and they group them out. If you go to where it says 1,000 water enterprise, the revenues were 5.7 million, transfers were 464, expenditures were 7 million, a little bit over 7 million. And so you can see the water enterprise fund is not in as good a shape as the general fund. We're spending, the city is spending more has more expenditures than revenues in that fund. And that's a combination of our water, wastewater fund and our fund 550, which is a reserve fund. And then if you look at the solid waste enterprise funds, 1,493,000 worth of revenues, then 1,462,752 of expenditures, the transfers out of 137,500, and so that fund is close. They spent a little bit more than what they brought in, or even a little bit into reserves, but not that bad. And then with the airport, they had a few more revenue things than they did expenditures also. We could go into this into a lot of detail, but those are the major funds. If you have any questions about anything,
Marilyn, the other funds are pretty much pass-through funds for grants,
yes, sir.
EMS grant, fire fund grant.
Yes, sir. There's a lot of special revenues which are the pass-through, they're grant funded, and so those they generally don't spend a lot of time on it because the revenue comes in and it goes out for the grant purpose.
Can you go back to page 1 to the general fund real quick? Just so I can make a point. This is the only fund that we're required by the state to have a certain reserve amount in, which we have to have 112. And I believe that's that 800 and
$838,456.32, yes, sir. And that is 1/12 of the expenditures. And that is a state requirement that we have to keep that in reserve.
But our actual balance is the 3,100,000. I can't read that well.
Yes, and unfortunately, this report doesn't have the, our investments updated. There's approximately, about $2 million worth of investments in the general fund.
We'll see that on the next one, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions on the fourth quarter report? Pleasure of the council. For the adoption of resolution 23-2403.
Move
So-
to,
Go ahead, Mr. Bowen.
So
second,
Motion by Mr. Bowen, second by Ms. Cordova. Any further discussion? Carl, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Robinson,
yes.
Ms. Cordova,
yes,
Mr. Bowen,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Heflin,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes. Okay. Our next item under Finance Department is the final budget resolution 23-2404.
Okay, the recap sheet that you see does have the recap of the beginning balances, and that does have the investments included, that they're all in one lump sum. And so you have the investments, and then you have the budgeted revenues and expenditures in our ending fund balance, and you can see the general fund does have the reserve requirement once again set aside. The general fund is starting the year in a healthy position. And we do have a presentation, it's a very short presentation, if you wanted to look at that.
Yeah, let's go to that if you can find that. Chief, you're doing a good job back there.
Thank you.
You're doing good.
I may not be IT, but I meant tonight.
Stayed at the Holiday Inn Express last night, did you?
That's not it, chief.
Back up.
That's all- that's all.
At one point, not.
so we had what he was at
go
this
to-
morning.
So go to the next.
Yeah, that's the one we tabled for the time being.
Oh, yeah.
Only two that we have. Was it a PowerPoint this morning? Yes. We just had it done.
We had that one this morning.
Yeah, we had to recap only.
Oh, you didn't have the presentation?
No, man.
No, ma'am.
No, no.
Oh, well, then I guess we don't have the presentation. The, no, the presentation, some of the things that were pointed out in the presentation is the general fund is starting the year in a healthy balance. The, what's wrong with the general fund is the recap. Well. The,
You had to recap up there a while ago, didn't you?
That's it, chief.
the, because the general fund, we're budgeting $11,064,492 in revenues, expenditures of $11,866 and 55. And so we're projecting to use up a little bit of the fund reserve, and some of the issues that we need to look at.
Is this the correct one around?
Yes.
Was the interim budget presentation?
Well, it's actually the final, but yeah. And so that's some of the things, one of the things, we have the property tax increase to the 1.47 mils. And so that is the prior rate is 3.225 mils. The increase will generate approximately $234,000 of additional revenue. And if you remember right, the council did dedicate a minimum of half of that increase going to the street fund for street projects. So that's about $117,000 that will go into the street fund in the next year. Our DRP collections are up about a 6% increase. Retail sales up. The the transfers from the enterprise fund and the general fund were reduced by $325,000. And, so then, and there's also a COLA for, non-elected and non-grant employees. Next slide, please. And so then, we talked about skate park, there's a playground equipment, convenience center improvements, you did approve on the consent agenda, it's not on the slide, but the police vehicles. Next slide, please. Chip spreader, capital outlay, mulching tank, these are all capital items. We didn't add any capital items other than these into the final budget. The next slide, please. So we're gonna talk about major funds, just like I did for the fourth quarter. And so when you look at that, the ending cash and investments, 4,899,000. And so noted a few areas of concern, we are starting in healthy cash balance. And a lot of this is due to salary savings for open positions. Gross receipts for the last year, fiscal year 23, was about 8% higher than budgeted. City employees did implement cost saving measures. Throughout the year, all the city employees were very cognizant of the fact that we need to be good stewards of the city's resources. And so they did everything they could to keep expenses within reason and not spend unnecessarily. Items of continued concern, budgeted expenditures are greater than budgeted revenues. And also the continued difficulty we have with filling open positions. And that's causing a strain throughout the city. I don't think that we're uncommon throughout the country. Everybody is pretty much reporting the same thing. Everywhere you go, you see signs now hiring. The city is the same way.
Marilyn, on the gross receipts collections, that was from internet sales, is that correct?
A lot of that was from internet sales and some of it is from cannabis sales. I can't
That's
compare
right.
those numbers exactly on the cannabis because they're not reported separately.
But don't they average somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 a month? It's not near as great as
Well,
what.
let me see,
expected.
they report the cannabis excise tax, separately, and that's between 5 and 6. Some months we have been as high as 7,000 a month for the excise tax, and we get 1/3 of the 12% excise tax. But the retail sale of the cannabis, there's also the gross receipts on top of that, and they don't report that separately. You could go back and try to calculate those numbers, but it's very imprecise. And I don't have those in front of me at the moment.
Hold on, Mr. Robinson has a question.
Yes, sir.
I noticed one of your bullets is salary saving from open position. What is the same amount?
You would put me on the spot, Mr. Robinson?
No, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just curious, when we say salary saving, we use that term very loosely. And so what is the dollar amount we say?
Unfortunately, I'll have to get back with you on that. I don't have that dollar amount in front of me, but I can tell you that, in the police department, we've had quite a few openings throughout the year. In the fire department, we've had quite a few openings during the year. And with any opening, it takes a while to get them filled, and then they're usually at a lower rate than the person that they replace.
So, Mr. Robinson, when we put the budget together, we fund those positions at a high rate.
Okay.
So when we lose an employee like Marilyn that retires, I mean, I don't know what we did with Twyla, but normally, you get this position that they've been here 6-8 years, and if they're at this level, and you bring in somebody at entry level at much less, so those salaries, because when we budget them at the highest rate.
Right.
So the savings is either the employee leaves and we don't replace it, or when we do replace it, we're replacing it at a reduced salary than what was budgeted for.
I understand that. What I'm trying to get to is what is the dollar amount that we actually save? And how's those funds utilized in the budget?
That was a question we had this morning at finance because we were under the assumption that doesn't it go to our maintenance for buildings?
No, ma'am, not at the moment. What the salary savings do is they actually go back into the fund reserves and they're reallocated the next year, for the purposes of that point. There have been sometimes during the year where if we have salary savings, we come and we ask to have that reallocated for a one-time capital project. But that's on a case-by-case basis.
Okay,
And so what we have at the end of the year just goes back into the reserves, to be reallocated for the next year.
So the other part of my question then is if the police department have vacancies, that money go back into their budget or it put into the general fund budget?
It gets put into the general fund budget, police department, the police department, fire department, street department, they all, have their funding in the general fund. And so they're all paid out of the same pot, as it were. And so if they have salary savings in that department, it goes back into the reserves and it gets reallocated the next year or during the same year, based upon the needs of the general fund as a whole.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Everyone, go ahead.
Okay, so the next one I want to talk about is solid waste fund. The solid waste, this is your garbage trucks. And so what we're looking at here is the beginning cash and investments of 1,826,000, fund revenues of 1,605, budgeted transfer out of 200,000, and so fund expenditures of 1.6. And so we're looking for our ending fund balance or reserves 1,601,000 and 601,000. And so we reduced the transfer to the general fund by 75,000. Every year we're trying to reduce that transfer, but that transfer does help support general fund functions that the general fund provides for the solid waste. The solid waste, they don't have their own finance director, they don't have their own payroll person, etc. And the general fund provides those functions for them. And so this goes in to help pay for those functions. So then the solid waste fund has also had a problem attracting and keeping qualified employees. It's the same, as I mentioned, throughout the city, throughout the country. And so those are concerns that we need to look at for this upcoming year through the city. What can we do to help make the city more attractive for people to want to work for the city? The next slide. The water wastewater fund. This is probably the fund that concerns me the most. Are beginning cash and investments. $8 million. We're projecting to end at 6 million. And the biggest problem, issues facing this fund, probably the biggest problem is the rapid reduction in production at of water from our well field. We need to expand our well field. We need to rehab wells. We need to do everything that we can to keep this production going. The East New Mexico Water Authority, they will provide water to us. But that's several years down the line for the best estimates. And that would just be one tool in our toolbox, even when that comes in. The well field is a very important tool and we need to expand that. And this year with the drought, it's really come to light how precarious our water situation is in the city. And I mentioned the lead and copper federal ruling. This would require the inventory. And if they find a problem, we haven't found any problems yet. I don't think we'll find any problems, but if they do, there will be remediation. And I'm not the expert on this. Other people are, but that is causing more expenses in that department because we do have a crew going out there and they're testing all these pipes to see what type of material they're made out of. Now, and this came from the Flint, Michigan, but with all that, they lead and copper. And of course, we had difficulty in obtaining parts and increases in material costs in this department. And once again, it's difficult to recruit and retain. And another wrinkle in the water department is that they have to have water levels. And those water levels, they have to work at least 1 year and to pass a test to get water level 1. And it goes on, and in the operator system, we have to have a minimum of
Water 3 and wastewater 4.
Yes, and so And so these are people who are very high demand in the state, and this is something that we need to make sure that the city has those capable people in place. And I believe, next slide, please. There's a recap sheet that has the other funds, but like we talked about for the fourth quarter report, those are mostly pass-through funds, grant funded, special revenue funds. We can talk about any of those funds you wish. But this is just a quick overview of the final budget, and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I will note that this was approved for recommendation to the council by the finance committee this morning. Does anyone have any further questions for Marilyn? Madam Chair,
No, sir. I make a motion that we approve, the final budget resolution 23-2404.
Second.
motion by Ms. Cordova, second by Mr. Lopez. Any further discussion, any further questions? Seeing none, Carter, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Ms. Cordova,
Yes.
Mr. Bowen,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Heflin,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes. And audience, I apologize for the confusion on that particular set of items. Our next item is public hearing for 2023 comprehensive plan. I will first need a motion to enter into public hearing to receive comment from the public.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Heflin, second by Mr. Robinson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are in public hearing. I will turn it over to our presenter.
Hi, everyone. I'm Phyllis Taylor with Site Southwest, and I met with you all 2 weeks ago. I am not going to make a presentation tonight because I presented background on the comprehensive plan at your last hearing, but I did want to give you an update because we got public comments from 3 residents that have been incorporated into the plan. We also met with staff to confirm some of the information in the plan. And those are the changes that are in the final draft. To summarize the comments we received, it just indicated how much people care about the quality of basic infrastructure, roads, sidewalks, parks. The plan includes an economic development component to go with your LEDA ordinance. So it does emphasize economic development. And some of the commenters pointed out that the quality of the infrastructure and the services provided by the city are very important to attracting and retaining both a workforce and businesses. And I think we had covered that in the plan already, but we did add some things to emphasize the information that came back to us in those comments. And I just want to thank the city staff and Portales residents who took the time to meet with us and respond to our survey and send us comments on our draft plan, and to tell you that you know this already, but you have a wonderful community. That's really all I wanted to say tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, at this time, do we have anyone from the public that would like to make any comments with regard to the comprehensive plan? Seeing none, I will take action to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Heflin, second by Mr. Bowen to close the public hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carries. Finally, our next item is action by the council for resolution 23-2406 for the adoption of the 2023 comprehensive plan. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve this resolution?
I'll make it.
Okay.
So moved.
Okay, Mr. Bowen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Robinson. There's no further discussion. Carter, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Ms. Porter,
Yes.
Mr. Bowen,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Ruffin,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes. Okay, our next item is the Roosevelt County Community Development Corporation's ex officio board member appointment of Kelly McClellan. That's awesome.
Yes, I'm coming before the council to request that Ms. Kelly can take my place on this board. I think the Community Services Department would be a very big asset to the Roosevelt, the economic development, it's a lot of words. So I'm asking for your permission to let her step in as ex officio in my place, so that way she can attend the meetings and any community services that they have going. Would you stand for any questions or comments?
Comments or questions?
I serve on that board, Mayor Pro Tem. And I've talked to Jody and Kelly and Jody do work good together because Kelly is ahead of zoning. And so it does make Jody's life a little easier on stuff like that. The only concern for Jody was that she was just to make sure that she could still get a hold of Sarah Austin anytime she needed to. And I said that was absolutely not a problem. And if Kelly couldn't answer zoning or something like that, we'd go right to Sarah. So I have no problems with approving it.
Any other comments? I have one, and I addressed it with you, Ms. Austin. It has nothing to do with Ms. McClellan at all. I just think that Ms. Austin, you're the chief executive officer of the city, and I think it's important that you serve on this committee because you're more the decision maker. I don't disagree that Ms. McClellan is more than capable to do that, but principally, I believe this position ought to be held by the city manager, and I'm probably going to vote against it for that reason. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion. I agree with what you said right there. I think that she should stay in there.
Well, the question before the council right now is the appointment of Ms. McClellan to replace Ms. Austin.
Mr. Mayor, I didn't make it, Mayor Pro Tem, I didn't make a comment, but I would like to make a motion that action don't take place. Because of this, basically ditto the reason that you just presented.
Let me think that the proper motion would be then to table this until the next meeting.
Postpone.
Postpone it until the next meeting. Okay, thank you, Carl. So that, I think that would be the proper motion.
Okay. I make the motion to postpone this to the next meeting.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. We are now to that item of our agenda that we are in public comment for which no action will be taken. Any matter not known about or which could not have been reasonably foreseen prior to the time of the posting of this agenda. This agenda item is for informational purposes only. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker, limited to one per presentation per meeting, and no more than 6 speakers on each subject. Councilors will not respond to comments or answers questions to avoid any violation of the Open Meetings Act. And if you have direct any questions or requests for information to the city manager in writing during regular business hours. Do we have any public comment?
Yeah, on this,
These would go on.
Yeah, we come into anybody.
My name is Chris Gay. On this BDO zone presentation, I'm not really sure what that is. It sounds like they're trying to sell us on something to get some kind of rating. Anyone have a clue how many active dairies there were in Roosevelt County last year, this time last year? 35. Anyone know August the 10th, how many there will be? 29. The dairies aren't going to give us a bio rating. 80% of the manure out there is unusable for biofuel. I get a half a dozen calls every year asking, if we're interested in buying equipment, if we're interested in trying to sell stuff to dairies for biofuel. And when they start getting all the numbers and all the information, they go, oh, there's no way, it'll never work, it'll never pan out. I don't think if this is something we're paying for, it's a waste of money. We do not need to pay for that. We are not. I mean, if you guys want more information, I've got a ton of information on the stuff going on at the dairies, what's usable biofuel, what's not. Just in this general, heck, I tried to buy the ethanol plant. How long ago was that? 3 years ago? Yeah. I tried to buy the ethanol plant. That got shut down. I didn't get the chance to buy it. It was a blessing in disguise because it definitely was not going to work like I thought it was after I talked to my uncle, who's an engineer at ExxonMobil. But I mean, that's just another example of a failed bio project here in this area. It's just, we just don't have it here. So if this thing's going to cost us any money, I say, don't waste our money. We're better off spending it on getting more water or something.
Thank you, sir. Any other? County Clerk.
My name is Mandy Park. I'm the Roosevelt County Clerk. I just wanted to remind you all that August 29th is candidate filing day. So if you need to sign up to run for office to hold your seat, or if somebody else wants to run for office for school boards, soil and water conservation districts, hospital board, all of those things, August 29th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. in the county clerk's office in the courthouse.
Thank you, madam.
Does that include the county commission?
County commission is not up for election in the odd numbered year.
That's
That will be
what I
next year.
thought.
Yes. Yeah, no commission this time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Comments from the staff?
We have one more.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Merrick.
Mayor Pro Tem and council members. I just got a question on what is happening to our affluent water? I drive by the cemetery, it's brown. I drive by the parks, they're brown. We're all rationing water, not watering yards, but that doesn't stop the amount of water that we're flushing toilets and running down the drains. That's still the same. So if we're still producing affluent water, where's it going? I mean, are we not pumping it just so that we don't show green yards anywhere in town, or? So.
I'm sorry, pursuant to the laws of New Mexico, they can't comment.
Well, I know.
respond.
Which this is all baloney anyway, because you don't ever have any public comment except for this period. And the only way that you can get on here is if you try to get on the agenda. And I've addressed this before. We don't get the agenda until usually Friday afternoon, late. And then the meeting is Tuesday. So I've tried and tried to call down to City Hall. No one answers the phone. Phone systems. They're terrible here. So this afternoon, I spent 2 hours trying to get a hold of Kelly. And I kept calling the operator for the phone system. It would transfer me. I'd get a message from the secretary of whatever department, and then it would go to a voicemail. Nobody had answered the phone. So I finally had to call the water department. She transferred me. And I was able to get a hold of Tammy and get my question answered. But I'm just wondering where the affluent water's going, because we're apparently not pumping it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Merrick, Mr. Rattler.
Mike Rackler, resident, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I just would like for you to review what was voted on the gross receipts on May 23rd. what was presented a few minutes ago in the budget thing was that 50% of it was still going to the streets. I believe that was removed the night it was voted on. So I would just like for you to review that. So I just don't think that was the way it was voted on.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, now we'll go to staff. Comments? Comments from the council? Ms. Cordova?
Sarah, can we put the phone tree on the system so they know which extension to choose?
Extension.
Yes, please. And then please update us on the water restrictions.
Our situation hasn't changed. Our well field can't produce any more. We're actually have lost about 100 gallons a minute capability. Now, the water restrictions are working. We have probably, I would say, 99 out of 100 people that's helping us with the water restrictions by not watering their yards, not washing their driveway, those kind of things. So at the moment, we're able to keep the tank full. But that's with all wells up. We have the only reserve capability we have right now is the Lime Street tank and the 3 wells we run into it. So until we can develop more water production, the situation isn't going to change. The longer the wells run, the less water they can produce. And it seems to be happening at an accelerated rate in our area. We're hearing about wells around Arts that's starting to dry up. And we're noticing that our wells, the capability has seriously dropped off. To give you an example, one of our wells in the Las Lomas section, when we brought it on 9 years ago, could pump 450 gallons a minute. It struggles to pump 40 now. So we're managing on the best that we can, and that's even with us bringing the re-drills on. We gained 160 gallons a minute with those over what was originally there, but throughout the year we've actually declined.
What is our plan moving forward?
We have a series of plans that we've been working on. We had a meeting, Sarah, with the Mayor Pro Tem and the mayor, and we have conservation is our first best effort right now. Is where we can do the most. The next step after that is we had a meeting with the state land office, or I'm sorry, with our engineers and the office of the state engineer, and we've got some answers from them as far as the conservation management effort area. We got them to agree to not worry about the regional modeling, to just do local modeling. We also got some instruction on what our best step next would be to look at acquiring new wells that could be repurposed. Of course, they'll have to be re-drilled and re-permitted. And then we have another plan as far as moving forward with moving out over the state land. We got some answers from the OSCU that part about not worrying about the regional modeling. That was very, very encouraging for us. And they also agreed to help with the inspection of the existing wells that might be influenced by us drilling new wells. So our next step is we have a notice of intent going to the Water Trust Board for 2 Water Trust Board applications. We'll also be making an application for the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund Loan Program. That will be for, part of it will be for rehabbing the Lime Street tank battery and building a new elevated tank. And also acquiring new wells for the Water Trust Board. And then the state, the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund Loan Program will be for acquisition of new wells and development of the current plan we have for enhancing the Whitewater well field, moving into the state land, building a new tank battery, those types of things.
Anything else, Ms. Gordon?
So our tanks are right now at 29 feet, correct?
We're staying between 27 and 29 feet is where we're staying. Now, a big part of we still have quite a bit of demand. Nowhere near what we have when we want a water ration. But as the temperature goes up, we still have a lot of people that use evaporative coolers. And I think that's where a large portion of that is going. If you drive around town, you don't see very many green yards. And most of the ones that we see are the ones that have
that have existing wells. So the community has really made the difference. In fact, Chris Cordova and I, we've got where we can sleep through most nights. Knowing that we can't keep the tanks at the level they are now, but if we come off of rationing, we're gonna go right straight back where we were. We just do not have the production capability. And that's what we have now. 6 months from now, I don't know what those numbers are gonna be. They're not coming back the way that we had anticipated. We took 3 of our lower producing wells offline for a few hours and we didn't gain anything back from those.
And I just have one more comment. So the purple hydrants, when we're watering, are we watering the cemetery? When we water the cemetery, those are reuse, that's reuse water. So it's not coming off of our tanks. It's not that we're trying to keep the cemeteries or the parks green because it's reuse water. It's not nothing that we're using for potable water.
Right.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Any other comments? Mr. Hetman?
Just an update on the new garbage. Canisters, the new garbage pickups, you said to this afternoon, you got something like 70 dumpsters, yeah.
We had 76. I had to take the Kevin and see how many have been put out.
Instead of approximately half had been put out.
That's what I was
Keeping up with, are we keeping up with basic scheduling as far as on Monday, wherever the dumpsters are labeled?
Yes. The
So
regular.
not behind on any of that.
Every now and then we've had some issues with, I think one of the schools, but I think we figured out what the problem was, and it was in the summer, they weren't scheduled to get more than what we were picking up, and I believe we added a route for them. It was, I think, Lindsay?
Yeah, Lindsay.
Lindsay School, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comment?
Can I try one more? Sorry. So on the dumpsters that you're taking out, are you rehabbing them? Thank you. Are we rehabbing the dumpsters that are coming out?
If they are rehabbable, they will be re-welding the bottoms on them and repairing the lids.
Okay.
When we have staff available, that's when we do it, and we try to reuse as many as we
Okay, perfect. That's it.
Perfect, thank you. Any other comments from the council? If not, I would ask for action to convene in a closed meeting to discuss matters as provided for under the Mexico statute relating to purchase, acquisition, or disposal of real property or water rights, and for attorney-client privilege pertaining to threatened or pending litigation.
Motion to enter into executive session.
Second,
Motion by Ms. Cordova, second by Mr. Lopez. Carla, will you please call the roll? Say yes.
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 Yes. Okay, 7:02, we are in a closed session. Thank you, everybody. Okay, I need a motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Robinson, second by Mr. Bowen, come out of executive session. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. There was only those items that were mentioned in the motion to enter into executive session were discussed. No action was taken and no action is needed. We are adjourned.